Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to see all of you guys here. As I was saying before, I think at the bottom of the screen there is a place where you can chat or Q&A. So feel free to do that. In fact, as we go through the class, as you have questions, please make a note in the question box, or if that doesn't work, because I think last time I couldn't get that to go ahead and do it in the chat box. One way or another, I will find you. I will get your question. And okay, we'll wait just one more minute here. I'm checking a few things. Oh, thank you, sister. I just got your text. Yeah, we'll just wait one more minute and then we'll get going. So it's a beautiful cloudy day in Arizona. Probably most of you guys are here, except I know Angie is in Utah. So it's probably cold and cloudy there in Park City, but here it's a nice day. So cloudy isn't such a bad thing in Arizona. It's a good thing. All right, well, let's go ahead and start. I want to first of all welcome you guys to this webinar. So this is the second webinar in a series that I've been doing, which is called Training for Your Cranium. And I've been thinking about this one for a long time. This one is called Eliminating Self-Sabotaging Behaviors, because I know that that's a big problem. Now, it's been a problem for me, it still is, and so this one really spoke to me, and so I'm really hoping that there'll be some good, juicy things that you guys can take away from this webinar to help you like right away in your life to get your goals. I'm Camille Smith, and I am the creator and owner of You Unlimited. I'm a faith-based teacher, life coach, and mentor, and my passion is helping people get their goals. I just love watching people, dig in and get the answers that they need, and it's what makes me feel most alive. So I feel really alive this morning. I'm really excited. So I want to thank you guys for taking time out for yourself. Doing this self-care is really important, especially this time of year, because I know you guys all have a lot to do. And so we're going to just go ahead and dig right in because I know you're busy. So I want to break it down a little bit for you. First of all, I want to tell you what we're going to talk about. Obviously, we're talking about self-sabotage. We're going to talk about what resistance looks like, and we'll talk about that in a minute, both coming from outside of you and coming from inside of you, why it happens, and then teach you the tools so you can get out of your own way and get after your goal. So the root word of self-sabotage is sabotage, not surprisingly. And the definition says that sabotage means any underhand interference with work or production. And second definition is any undermining of a cause. So do you see anything here, any difference, any commonality between those two definitions? The word under. So self-sabotage is something that's usually kind of underground where we don't always see it or notice it. And that's why it's so insidious. But today we're going to shine the light on that, and we're going to explore it from all angles. So let's start out with this. Can you guys see me? All right, I'm going to sit so I don't overpower. Let's say this is you. This is where you are right now in your life, okay, point A. And this is point B, where you want to be, where you're trying to go. This is your goal, your dreams, your hopes, and your aspirations. And so when you're here, you're moving upward and outward. That's a really important distinction. Now, the way you get from A to B is you take these little steps, right? You make little to-do lists and goals and things to get you there. And as you're going along your path, this is what happens. Boom, you hit a wall, okay? So maybe the wall comes right when you get started, or maybe the wall happens right as you're almost at the finish line. Like you can see it on the horizon. You can see your goal. You're so excited, and then boom, this happens. I just want you to know that this is normal. It's not anything to be distressed about, but what happens is that people have a couple of different reactions, all right? So the first reaction that they have is panic. So once you see that wall pop up, that resistance, you hit the panic button. you freak out and you think, oh my gosh, this is not for me. I made the wrong choice. I don't know what I was thinking in making this goal. This is definitely not what God wants me to do. So abort, abort, abort. That's our reaction, okay? Now, here's another consideration for you. Another consideration for you is just stopping and making yourself aware of the situation, okay? So sometimes that's not easy, but if you hesitate and you explore when that happens and you ask a couple of questions, it's a lot more useful in getting you past that obstruction. Now, so going back to that panic button thing, sometimes, I'm not saying that there's never a time where something comes up and maybe it isn't the right path for you, and we're going to talk about first thought and second thought in just a minute, so stay tuned on that one. Now, here's another option for you when you come up against that wall: acceptance. And why do I say acceptance? Acceptance is, there's a wealth of choices in acceptance. And with resistance, which is what we're calling these walls, resistance, I don't think I defined this. So let me go back for just a minute. So the definition of resistance is anything that pushes against you. So it could be like an equal and opposite push down against you. So here you are with your goal and you're excited and you're ready to go save the world and do something really good. Especially the more important it is, the more you're going to push back. Now, if you've been in the What Now class that I teach with my good friend Sarah, who's here today with us, you know a little bit about what resistance is. And it's just part of Earth life. This is what we experience when we're here, because we have the law of opposites. We have good and we have evil and hot and cold and all that stuff. So it's just natural that we're going to have that. So as I said, the third way we can react when we see that resistance is we can just realize that it's a sign that we're on the right path. What would that be like if we feel the resistance and we say to ourselves, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Something great is going to happen. We're going to get to our goal and something really wonderful is going to happen to change my life or someone else's. So think about that. That's a consideration. And as long as I'm talking, let me just say this little aside. As I'm delivering this webinar today, my intention is to shine the light on all of these little underground things that are happening and to help you shine that same light. So I'm saying words, you guys are listening to them, but I want you to listen on the inside. That means, so what the Spirit is telling you, what whispering to you, what your intuition is nudging you when you hear a certain thing, that's the important information that's unique to you. So make sure you're taking notes on what's resonating with you, because that's your takeaway that you can go home and say, okay, this is what I need to work on. Awesome. All right. So resistance shows up in a couple of different ways. It shows up in forces from outside of us that we have no control over. And then it shows up as forces inside of us, which is what we're talking about. Those things that we do to ourselves. So let's look at the difference between both of them. I'm going to give you just a couple examples of the resistance from outside, and you probably have a million of those already. So let's say that you got your dream job. You landed the job that you've been working on. You're so excited about it. But then you look around at the people closest to you, maybe even members of your own family, and they have nothing to say about this dream job of yours except, negative comments or disparaging comments, okay? Maybe you're on your way doing a really important meeting and you have a car accident or your car breaks down. Okay, nothing that you did, right? Nothing out of your control. Or what if you get sick the day before your wedding? You get the flu. All right, you get the point. Things happen to us all the time. That's resistance, all right? Especially greater when it's something really important, it seems to be. Now, here's a question for you. What about when you are the resistance? You are the reason why you can't move forward. Sometimes it happens on a conscious level, like you're aware of you taking these actions and being in this repeated behavior cycle, and sometimes you're not aware. Remember the under part? So the way your brain is, it's like an iceberg. It's like a lot of things. But so an iceberg is like the tip of it is the conscious part of your brain, the part that you're aware of, you're active, you're doing things, that's the conscious part. And then below the surface, the big part is the subconscious. That's the part where you store your beliefs and your thought patterns. And that's the part that can sometimes be difficult to tap into. but it's really important to get there because that's where you find out what's really going on. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, I'm going to get a little vulnerable here, and I'm going to share a story with you guys about my own self-sabotage that's unique to right now, right here. So as I explained at the beginning, I've been wanting to do this particular topic for a webinar because I think it really resonates with so many people. And so I was really excited about it. I'm, praying, I'm thinking about it, I'm discussing it, whatever, getting lots of information and putting it together. And in the process, I'm thinking, okay, when am I going to do this webinar? I need to choose a date, the best date, where people won't be too busy and whatever. But the other thing that I like to do when I promote a webinar is I like to create videos, because for me that works well. I know how to do it. And it's an easy way for me to get my thoughts across. So I know that when I do my webinar, I'm going to be doing some videos before that. Here's where the self-sabotage comes in. Because when I'm on camera, I like to look nice, right? Most of us like to look nice. I want to look good, and I don't want to look pudgy or doughy, okay? So I tell myself, well, before you do your webinar, you really should drop a little bit of weight, maybe 5 or 10 pounds, and look nice and trim so that when you're teaching, you feel confident and you look good. So that's the story that I'm telling myself. Now, what happens after that is I pay absolutely no attention to what I'm eating. I'm eating whatever I want. I'm eating junk food. I'm eating chocolate. I love chocolate. And I'm not really following the goal that I think I want, which is to lose a few pounds, because remember, I have to lose those pounds before I can do the video, before I do my webinar. So it's kind of a cycle here. It's in order to do this, I have to do this, and I can't do any of that until I've lost this weight. So that's the story that I was telling myself. And because I wasn't really dialed in and taking the action that I wanted to drop a couple of pounds, I stayed in this loop of not getting ready for the webinar, okay? So has this happened to you? Remember, you're writing down notes that have to do specifically with you. First of all, who cares really how I look? The important thing is the message that I'm delivering to you. And if my cheeks are chubby, who cares? That is not important, okay? That's a perfect example of resistance pushing against you in the form of self-sabotage. Now, okay, let me go to my flip chart. Let's talk for a minute about where self-sabotage comes from. Okay, in my mind, self-sabotage is a little bit of a misnomer, the self part, because a lot of times that self-sabotage is coming from the enemy. Now, when I say the enemy, I believe there's good and evil. It's Satan. It's the guy that doesn't want us to do good things. It doesn't want us to reach our goals and doesn't want us to be happy. So a lot of times, because he knows us well, he knows our trigger points, and he knows the buttons that he can push to keep us from moving forward. So this is a really easy way for me to think about it. When you are creating your life, when you have an intention and a goal is something you're really excited about, you are creating, okay? So you have the thought of the thing that you want to do. Usually right after the first thought comes the second thought. This is the part I want you to tune into. The second thought is the naysayer, the critic, the voice that makes you doubt. It's the voice that says, like for me with making the webinar, I'm so excited. I've got this information I want to share with people on this webinar. The second thought was, well, you're really not ready for a webinar because you look a little too chubby, or whatever. That's the second thought. So I want you to be especially aware when you are going for something of what the second thought is, and take heed and listen to it and say, where is this coming from? A lot of times it's the enemy. It's resistance trying to keep you from moving forward, pushing on you. Okay. So the second part is the second reason, or the way it comes from, place that it comes from, I'm sorry, is that you might not be ready. Let's say you want a goal, you've set a goal for yourself, but if you're not ready for that goal, if you haven't developed the capacity for whatever is going to come to you, you might self-sabotage. You might take action to slow yourself down because you're not ready. So what you need to do is look at the reason why you want something. A lot of times we want something because someone else suggests it to us. It could be a person in authority, a parent or a spouse or somebody that says, you should do this. This would be a good goal for you. Okay. Beware of the word should, by the way. That's a naughty word. Anyway, so the not ready part could be you moving towards something that's really not your idea, or it could be someone else has a really exciting goal, like they're going to run a marathon or something, and you're like, that sounds so exciting. I'm going to do that too. But if you haven't developed the why underneath, it doesn't really, you don't have the foundation to move forward, and you may find yourself taking steps to slow yourself down so you're not really moving forward towards that. All right, so I've got a good example of this one. Let's say John is attending dental school, okay? So John starts not doing well in his classes, all right? He starts failing his tests. He starts being late for his papers and his projects, and he's just not doing well. So Peter is John's father. Peter is a dentist and has been a dentist his whole career. And he and John, he and his son, have talked about working together. Like after, at some point, John will take over the practice, they'll work together. And so that's been the expectation all along, that John will become a dentist just like his father. But as time moves forward and as John is moving through his dental practice, his schooling, he realizes, or maybe not yet, that he's not really wanting that. It's not really what he wants to do with his life, but there could be a fear of him disappointing his father. So instead of coming out and saying it, and he may not be aware of it yet, instead he takes steps to slow himself down so he doesn't move forward to the thing that he wants. So I want you to consider this for yourself. When you have a goal, ask yourself, is this what I want? Is this what I want? Okay, and by the way, if you're stopping yourself because you're like, I have to make sure God's okay with this, that's all right. But I really believe that if it's something good, he wants for us what we want. He's a good father. Think of a good father wants you to have what you want to have. If it's good, okay, if it's something evil, no. But so keep that in mind, because sometimes even that thought can keep us stuck, like having to reach outside for approval for all these different sources. I'm not saying don't pray. Please don't hear me wrong. I want you to do that. Okay. The third thing is maybe doubting your self-worth or not realizing your own greatness. The thing is, we came here to earth worthy. You are worthy. And anything that says other than that is a lie. It's just a lie. So know that. So what will happen a lot is as you go towards your goal, especially something really big and exciting, you'll have that second thought in your head that will say, who do you think you are? You can't accomplish this thing. You don't have the training for it. You don't know enough people. You don't have enough connections. Fill in the blank. Okay. So then that taps into, a lot of us get the message somewhere along the line, a lot of times when we're very young, that we're not worthy and we have to do things to earn our worth. A lot of us have that belief. I've worked with many people in my practice, and I find that lack of self-worth very, very frequently. So look at that. Now, I have to share with you one of my favorite quotes, and perhaps you've heard it before. It's a quote from Marianne Williamson, and let me see if I can find it here. It's going to take me just a minute to get to the share screen. And it should be right over here. Okay, can you guys see that? I'll read it to you. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We're born to make manifest the glory of God that's within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Don't you love that one? It just really rings true. I use that a lot because it's really true. So if this is true, or if you think it's true, why would we be afraid of our own greatness? Like, does that make sense? It has to do with the theory of familiarity. Okay, so we are comfortable with the things that we are familiar with. Our brain is programmed, our ego, brain and ego, I'm kind of using those to mean the same thing, is programmed to keep us safe and to help us survive. And a lot of times it looks at things that are outside the box or different or new, like a goal, as a threat. And it's like you'll hear that voice in your head saying, get back in the boat. Where are you going? And where do you think you're going? It's not safe. You need to stay here. Don't make any waves. Okay, so that might be a thought that's coming into your head when you're trying to be bigger, to be more of who you are and reach your potential. Okay. So because we're so familiar or comfortable with what's familiar, oftentimes we go back to what we've repeated. So that self-sabotage behavior is oftentimes, it's like a circle. It's a cycle, right? That we repeat over and over. We try to go for the goal, something happens, and then we just kind of go in the whole Groundhog Day thing. I'm going to show you my little drawing that has to do with familiarity. Let's say this is your life. It's a straight line, okay? This is where you are right now in your life. Make a little smiley face. That's you on this dot. Okay, everything that you've done in your life is back here. This is evidence. This is things that you've done. You were born, you went to school, you won the spelling bee. Whatever those things are on your timeline of life, they're concrete, they're real, and you can see them because they happened. So this makes us feel warm and fuzzy and really good because we know it and we're familiar with it, and our brains feel okay with it because we've done it. Now, what happens when we're trying to go off here in the distance, okay, to our goal? There's all kinds of possibilities, okay? So from where we are, there's infinite possibilities and goals and things that we can do. But the problem is we don't know exactly what that looks like yet. And so here's what creeps in. We don't know, so we begin to fear. It's scary. I better go back. I better go back and do what I already know. And then we try to go forward again, and then we bump into fear, and then we go back again. I got to go back to my little familiar, comfortable zone. Now, I'm going to suggest something for you. What if, because fear is a part of life, and it's the thing that our enemy throws against us a lot to stop us, what if we felt that fear and we did it anyway? What if we buddied right up to the fear? What if we saw it as like a traveler along the road, and we just said, hey, fear, come on in. Have a seat next to me in my car. I'm driving, but you can be next to me, and I'm still going to move forward. Don't you love that analogy? You can feel the fear, and you can do it anyway. And that's when you burst through and you get to your goal. All right, so make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. Those are some of the reasons that we self-sabotage. Let's talk about what it actually looks like. I want you to answer out loud, maybe, if you don't mind, to yourself, or take good notes on this one, because I think we might strike a couple of chords with you. This is what self-sabotage looks like. These are some of the ways it shows up. Number one, distraction. Are you guys familiar with distraction? Distraction is working on a project. I am like the queen of distraction. And you're moving forward on your project, and then you have a thought in your head. So distractions come from everywhere, outside and inside. My worst ones are like in my own head, because I sit down to something and then immediately thoughts start popping in my head. Oh, you better answer that text that you forgot to answer. Oh, you better call this person that you said you're going to call. Oh, you better check your bank balance. I mean, a million different things. Distraction is one of the most common ways for me, and maybe for you too, that keeps us stuck, that keeps us self-sabotaging. So it could even be a good thing. I mean, it's not a bad thing to call a friend or to text a friend or something. Of course it's not, but it still is a distraction when you're moving towards something. One of the things I say a lot is, but first let me do this. But first let me do this, instead of doing the hard work and digging in. All right, how about procrastination? Okay, are you familiar with this one? I'll do it later. So you have every intention to take the steps that you need to get your goal, but you'll do it later. All right, let me lose 10 pounds first. Let me go to get my hair done. Let me get the perfect job first. Let me earn some more money first. Whatever it is before you move forward, that is self-sabotaging. Number 3, screwing up, or taking shortcuts. Do you ever make mistakes on purpose? Usually you don't know it's on purpose because, remember, with self-sabotage, it's underneath the surface. But as you start to become more aware, which is what we're doing in this webinar, while you're taking notes, you're waking up and you're becoming more aware of what your own little traps are, okay? So sometimes we're not really ready to step out in a big way. So we might do little things to slow us down. I think I talked about that earlier. We make mistakes on purpose and we're not ready to get there yet. I was talking to my husband this morning. He was giving me an example of the people that he works with. He works for Bank of America. So they have to call their FSAs. What's FSA? Oh, they're financial service advisors. They work over the phone with people. And when they're working with people, they're suggesting that they might want to move their assets to Bank of America. He said I could share this, by the way. So he said his FSAs, you know, they're helping them through things, and they'll say, okay, send me a statement and I'll do an analysis and we'll get back together. He said a lot of times they've already established rapport with one another, the FSA with the customer. They're talking on the phone, they've established rapport. Instead of taking the bigger step of suggesting that they move their assets over to Bank of America, they'll take these little in-between steps that don't really get them any further along the way, and a lot of times it's just wasted time and energy. So that goes in this category of doing things or taking shortcuts to kind of slow down the process. Taking the easier route, maybe a show of effort, but not a big step like you know you need to take. How about excuses and justification? You familiar with those? Telling yourself stories, and I'm going to tell you some more stories later. However, creating a story in your head for what you think is happening or the reason why you can't XYZ, that's called an excuse and a justification. And yes, that is self-sabotage. What about denial? Denial means not telling yourself the truth, because sometimes the truth might be scary. Although really it's not, okay? The truth is not a monster at all. It's the stories we tell ourselves about the truth that causes us to like shut it down or not want to look at it or be in that denial. I'm sure you guys can think of your own examples of that. So let's get to the good part and talk about tools. By the way, I'm planning on getting you guys out of here and finished, including questions at the end, in less than an hour, okay? Because I know you got stuff to do. So let's get to the juicy part, which is tools to use for you. Okay, number 1 is eyes wide open awareness. And that's what you're doing now. From the beginning of this webinar, when I started talking and you started hearing inside and listening and taking notes and comparing these examples to your own life, you're becoming aware, self-aware. And no change is going to happen unless you're aware. So open your eyes, be willing to tell yourself the truth. Do you guys have, this is what you're going to need, okay? Pad and a paper for some of these other things I'm going to teach you. Number 2, do some digging. And so the digging that I'm talking about is asking yourself a lot of questions, all right? I'm giving you guys tools so you can do the work. Here's the thing. The answers are with you. You have the answers. Isn't that great? Isn't that an empowering feeling that you don't have to search all out there for the answers? They're inside of you. But most people do not take the time. They just glide through their life in denial or whatever it is, not looking at what they need to look at because that's easier. They perceive that as easier. But in reality, it just keeps them stuck. And eventually, when you're stuck for a long time, the discomfort of being stuck overrides the fear. And you're just like, I don't care. I'm doing this and I just don't care because that uncomfortable feeling becomes too great. Sorry, I got off on a tangent there. Let's go back. So I want you to find out what your story is about your goal. Maybe take a second right now to write down something you're currently working for. Okay, a goal, a vision, a dream. And I want you to write down your story around that goal. Now, if you don't like to write or you don't like to type, you can use your phone. And there's like a little recorder thing on here where you can talk. You can like dictate, right? Dictation. You can talk and it'll, like on the notes part of your phone, I have an iPhone. You can do that, and that way you don't have to type or write. But anyway, writing is therapeutic. I think it's a good idea. So the idea is for you to get to the root of the story that you're telling yourself about your goal. Okay, exploring it from all sides. Write down everything that comes to your mind. This is like free forming, like brainstorming, brainstorming where there's no rules. This is what I want you to do. So put yourself in a quiet place without distraction and let your mind just run. Put your pencil on the paper or your finger on the keyboards and just start going. Okay, there's no wrong way to do this. And then once you're done, you're going to look at it and say, oh, that's what's going on. That's the story that I'm telling myself about my goal. You want to get to the root of it. So asking good questions is always a good idea because our brain is programmed to look for answers. Isn't that great? So when we have a question that we throw out there into the ethers, our brain automatically goes to work because your brain is an excellent problem solver. Don't forget that one. So a couple of my favorite questions to ask when something comes up and I'm on my way to my goal is, where is this coming from? Remember first thought, second thought? Where is this coming from? Ask, is this thought coming from, or this idea or this story, is it coming from a good place? Or is it coming from the enemy? And if it's coming from the enemy, bye-bye. Dismiss it straight away. Okay. Another question you can ask is, what's going on here? Okay. Just open up your mind and write down what's going on in this situation so you can know what's happening. A couple of other ones, which I didn't write on my flip chart, are what do I need to do or where do I need to go next? So it's kind of the WH questions. Remember, the answers are inside of you, so you're asking the question so the brain unlocks and begins to search for the answer. Now here's another fun thing you can do with your pad and your paper. You can use colored pencils. You can use, like, this is a pen, but you can use blue to write a question. What's happening here? Or what's the other one? Where is this coming from? And then you take the red pencil or a different color pencil and you write the answer. Okay, that's one way you can do it. It doesn't matter if the question's blue or red, it doesn't matter, just different colors. Another thing you can do is the right hand, left hand. Have you guys ever tried that? Where you ask a question, you write the question with the right hand, and then you write the answer with the left hand. What's that doing? It's crossing, getting into both hemispheres of the brain. So we're digging down and we're getting to the answers. So these are just some fun things that you can try. You don't have to, but it's good to be creative when we're finding our answers, right? Okay. So we tell ourselves stories about what we want all the time. And we tell ourselves stories about why we can't have what we want. So find out what your story is, and you're going to be unlocking the key. I'm going to share another example with you. So this is Kevin's story. Kevin decided he's, let's see, how old is Kevin? He is, I'm going to say he's 40 years old. He decides he wants to go back to school and get his degree because he never got his degree. So he's very excited. He starts taking classes and getting into it, and then all of a sudden he's not doing well. The tests are hard, he's failing his tests or not getting good marks, he's not turning in his papers and his projects, and he's starting to fail, okay? And so, so he knew he wanted to finish his degree, but the process of doing it was too difficult. So here's the benefit of asking these questions or having somebody help you with these questions. As he explored some of these questions, he learned something very important. What he learned was that he, when he was younger, he's a very intelligent person. When he was younger, he did great in school. In fact, everything came easily to him. He didn't need a lot of studying. He didn't need help with his homework or tests. He just naturally did well. So move forward several years and he's back in school. And guess what? It's not the same. It's not easy anymore. It's hard for him. And his reaction was, it's too hard and I don't want to do it because it shouldn't be that hard. It should be easy like it used to be for me. So there's that word should that's going to get you in trouble every time. Throw that out into the trash. So the reason I share this story with you is to show you the benefit of asking the questions. Once he was able to see what he was doing and the reason he was self-sabotaging, he could adjust and change his story. And so can you. Once you realize what the story is you're telling yourself about your goal, then you can dismiss it, you can change it, and you can recreate it. Isn't that awesome? Yes, you can have what you want. You tell yourself that. Remember, the root of the story might be fear, but look, your stories are not monsters. Sometimes we're afraid to look at our stories because we think they're too terrible, but they're not. They're just stories. There's no power in them except what you give them, the power that you give them. So don't be afraid of your story. It's not a monster. All right, so we talked about a lot of stuff today. We looked at self-sabotage from every angle, right? Up, below, we peeked under the covers. We talked about some juicy goals that you can start. Look, guys, this is work that you have to do, okay? But if you're the kind of person that likes to have somebody hold your hand, somebody to hold your feet to the fire, somebody to be an accountability partner, that is what I do. So if you haven't worked with me before, I would love to hold your hand. If those stories are too scary for you, let's work together. Let me be your cheerleader. Let me show you things from different angles in my experience. All the things, the tools that I've learned, I want to share them with you. I want to help you get your goals, because when you do that, you're happier. And when you're happier, everybody is happier, okay? It's good. Let's do this. All right, so let me tell you what I've developed. I have developed something called a mini session. Hang on, we're going to get to questions and answers in just 1 second here. So for my mini session means mini. So it's 30, maybe 40 minutes max, okay? You're booking a mini session with me gives you the opportunity to work with me on a smallish basis, get to know my style, and see if it works for you, okay? So my price, the value of my normal sessions, which are an hour, is $80. So mini session value is $40, but because you guys joined me today on this webinar, I'm going to offer it for just $25. That is a steal. Do you want to get your goal? Do you really want to? I want to help you with it. All right, so if you book a mini session with me for this amazing price, then all you have to do is book it between now and Monday. Okay, so let's say Monday at midnight. I have it up on my website right now. I'm going to quickly share how to get there so you'll know how to get there. Oops, share. Getting good at this now. Close that one. Open this one. Don't look at my cluttered. Okay, here it is. So if you go, excuse me, my website is u-unlimited.com. That's my website. So go to that website this, and then go here to book now. Okay, it says book your classes here. And then you can see this is the What Now class that I teach with Sarah. Our next one is starting in January 24th. This is yoga, because I teach yoga too on Wednesdays. This is my private mentoring. At the very bottom, it says mini sessions. Okay, right there. Book it. Okay, so come on here, click on it. I have a calendar here so you can choose, although you probably want to, I don't have everything on there yet. I'm going to work on that today, so you can book it right from there. If you have any problems, just contact me, because you've got my email, and a lot of you guys have my phone number too. So that's how you get to book your mini session with me. I'm going to stop the share. And then we can work together, and it's really fun. Okay, so you can see if it's right for you. You can work on, so you bring a particular challenge or goal or something you want to strategize. That's what I want you to bring to the mini session, and we'll work together on it. And you will leave with some tools, okay? So thank you guys so much for being here today. It looks like we got us done in 45 minutes, which is pretty good. So you can get on to the rest of your day. Thanks for taking care of your stuff. Thanks for taking time for self-care, which is what this is. Please contact me if you have any questions about what I've taught, or actually, let's see if there's any Q&As here. I'm going to go to chat. Okay, I don't see any questions on here. I'm looking at the chat box because for some reason the Q&A is not showing any questions. Let's see here. Answered, dismissed. Okay. All right, I'm getting good at Zoom. And by the way, let me just go back to the mini sessions. The mini sessions are all conducted via Zoom, which is where you are now. So you don't even need to leave your home. You can access it even from your phone. So we can talk, we can be face-to-face, we can strategize. I can share with you the tools that I have and the knowledge that I have in the interest of what you are trying to accomplish. So we use Zoom for that. Okay, so I see from Peggy, awesome. We're going to do that, Peggy. I will contact you, or you contact me. Anybody else have any questions? Isn't this so fun being together? I love it. It's easier to be here talking to you guys via this way sometimes, and it's been a wonderful experience for me. I guess I'll just go ahead and wind up right now since we don't have any other questions. Don't forget to book on my website, or just contact me directly if you guys want to try out a mini session. Look, I've got lots of cool stuff coming in the future. Sarah and I are going to get started on our What Now again. I've got Flight School, which is part 2 of What Now, coming up in February, and there'll be more webinars. So I love you guys. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for being as great and awesome as you are, and go after your goals. It's really important that you do. All right. Bye-bye.